So I wasn't sure if we're live or done. All right, shalom, everyone. All right. It's Tuesday night. It's Torah study night. All right. So welcome to our Tuesday night Torah study. So what we're going to do tonight, as always, is go through this week's Torah portion. And the Torah portion is Metzora. And we're going to cover 2 chapters, so it's not a whole lot. It's usually part of a double portion, but we're going to get through it. I hope you have well digested your food, because it's not the most appealing chapters to be reading. And it doesn't make for very good dinner conversation either. But anyway, it is stuff that we need to know about. So we're going to go through our weekly Torah cycle. If you're new and you just found us, welcome. And we are going through this process that's called the Torah portion cycle. It's a 1-year cycle from Genesis through Deuteronomy. So it's the first 5 books, known as the Chumash, also known as the Torah. The Torah can refer to the first 5 books, can refer to the commandments, can refer to instructions from above. Very versatile term, okay? And so we're in the book of Leviticus, and as we've been journeying through, so we've already gotten a few done, and we're right here in the middle. We've got 2 more books to go after. This is kind of the middle book, okay? And so what we're going to do tonight is going to read this week's Torah portion. Well, we're going to do some prayer, cover some prayer needs first, and then we'll read the portion, and after we read the portion, we'll go ahead and discuss what we read. Well, there'll be some announcements in between. So if you're going to be participating, and if you're online, you can do that. If you're here, you can do that as well. You may want to take notes. You may want to make sure your phones are off and in silent mode. So you may want to have your scriptures out, or a way to look at it on your phone, and a way to take some notes. All right. So here we go. We're going to begin with our prayer needs. Any prayer needs or praise reports that we need to cover? Okay, I'll start with one. Mercy had an injury in doing some working out, and that injury wasn't bad enough in itself, but it caused some other internal things that she's getting checked out. So please keep Mercy in prayer, okay? And so, which let that be a lesson for all of us that, you know, an injury may just hurt, but you might want to also get it checked out because some other things may be going on. And in this case, some other stuff was going on. So please keep her in prayer. Okay, Steve.
All right, there's a prayer and a praise because around here locally, Passover is gearing up and people are cooking and stuff's coming in and a lot of things are going on. So prayer for that and praise for that and prayer for everybody who's going to be coming, because I know there's always challenges when the feasts come up, and I've had my share.
Amen. I don't know what you're talking about, Steve. And we should not be worried about it. We should not be concerned about it. We should not be surprised about it either. Because, after all, we're excited about something, which means that the enemy is not. Okay? Especially if we're not excited about what he's excited about. And so, you know, these feasts end, well, I shouldn't say it that way. These feasts go through the plan, and the plan ends with him failing and him having nothing. And he knows that as we go through the feast cycle, we learn more and more about him and about our Creator and about the differences and where our allegiance needs to be and where our focus needs to be and who we need to serve. And so, therefore, he tries to get a little busier right before these feasts, hoping to derail or discourage us as we go forward in our observances. And so, certainly, we are not going to let that happen, right?
Amen.
Okay. We will not bend, we will not break. You know that song? We will not bow to any other. All right, Miss Shira.
And he hates it when we just stop and say, just for that, Hasatan, I'm going to stop and praise Yahweh for 5 or 10 minutes right in your face.
That's right.
Because Pesach is coming and it's going to be special. I know it's going to be amazing. Anyway.
Wait. I want to emphasize what you just said. When things are going on, if you get discouraged, then he wins. The enemy wins. But if you would praise your Creator for allowing you to go through a challenge, you would praise him in your struggles, the enemy loses, and you win. Okay? Abba wins no matter what. So this is about either you winning or the enemy winning. You get victory when you praise Elohim in your struggles. You lose and the enemy wins when you get discouraged, frustrated, quit, angry, bitter, etc. So I like that a lot. Thank you.
Praise Abba. And so for prayer, trusting in faith for, again, my dear niece and her Russian husband, who are missionaries in Moldova and have been going through all kinds of contortions to smooth the way, including visas and an extra trip here for her to renew her license and all of that. In the middle of all that, they both got COVID. So, praise Father, He has chosen to delay their plans. Okay. And just trusting for their safety.
I have actually been confused as Moldavian before. I know some of you may not understand that, but my wife and her family speak Romanian, and she had friends that speak Romanian, and when I try to speak Romanian, apparently I sound Moldavian than more than Romanian. So she's nodding her head. She goes, yep. And anyway, who's next? Rabbi Tom? Okay.
Thank you. I just want to say in the last couple of days, we've received some emails, really heart-wrenching emails from people who kind of doubt their self-worth. And I want to, if any of them have tuned in, I've encouraged them to tune into the Tuesday night studies. I want to tell them something that you always say. Yahweh would not have called you if He didn't think you could make it. I want to relay that to them. And we just have to put our faith and confidence in Almighty Yahweh.
Amen. Amen. I may mention it again during the announcements, but Marty just informed me that he has taken the things that I said after Rosh Chodesh, about 23 minutes worth, and made it into a nice little separate little posting or teaching that we're going to be posting. I think he said tomorrow. So... And again, it always, those Rosh Chodeshes have to do with like what Rabbi Tom just was talking about, which is the encouragement that you can get there and then, from where you're starting, et cetera. What are we titling that? Hitting the target, okay? Hitting the target. Not hitting each other, hitting the target, okay. All right, so that will be posted tomorrow, I believe. So that'll be fantastic. We're excited about that. And I recommend all of you listen to it. I mean, some of the things that you may not normally get to hear if you don't come to the Rosh Chodesh services, this one happened to be during our regular service, are very strong appeals for you to understand who you are in relation to Him and that His calling of you was part of His plan and His choice and His timing, and that you absolutely can get there, okay? And so I want to encourage you to listen to those. They're meant to be strong, but they're meant to be very encouraging. All right, who's next? All right, Grayson, live stream.
I have a quick praise. So thankfully, over the past couple weekends, I've gotten to spend some time with Taylor and the future in-laws, and they've taken us on some pretty amazing adventures, including on Sunday, where Andrew had asked me if I wanted to go kayaking, and I was like, sure, that sounds fun. And then I ended up finding myself on a 20-mile kayak trip. And there was a lot of opportunity to choose joy in suffering, and there was a lot of opportunity to just push past where my flesh wanted to go. And I'm just incredibly thankful that I have people in my life who present these opportunities for me to grow as a person. And I'm just incredibly thankful.
That was the best backhanded compliment I've ever heard.
And from the live stream, Shelly Bell Perez, please pray for my breathing, having difficulty breathing. Praise Yah, I'm still going to Pesach. From MTOI, Philippines Jet, prayer request for our upcoming Pesach. We have at least 70 participants this year, and with Rabbi's guidance, we are ready and excited. Shalom, Rabbi. There's many unspoken. From Diane Hogue, prayer request for healing. I have a cousin with double pneumonia and currently in the hospital. From BJ Lord, prayers for recovery from an adverse reaction to a prescription drug my doctor put me on, and prayers that the replacement doesn't cause any further trouble. From James Jolly, praise Yah, I was able to participate in a Passover Seder at Hebraic Family Fellowship last week in Norman, Oklahoma. From Kiara, prayers that no major flooding will happen before I have to leave for Pesach, meant to be getting rain over the next few days. From Shirley Akpelu, prayers for family members. From Elaine, unspoken. From Ruth Ann, praise Abba, I'm going through some stuff. Love the learning experience. I'm not going anywhere, learning lots. From James Jolly, prayers for our country and Jerusalem. From Jonathan Perwitz, praise that I'm finally finding the truth about Yahweh and no longer being deceived by modern-day Christianity. As I said, I'm very fresh in this, just started learning the Hebrew roots, so to say. From Carrie Ann Worthy, prayer request, please pray for my health condition, and please pray for Haroldson family and their son, Ethan, who is sick. Thank you, family. From Tammy Caballero, prayer for my care provider who lost her father after a lengthy illness. And then there's many unspoken, and that is all.
All right. So I want to address one of the comments that was there, one of the prayers or praises that had to do with being new. And I just want to encourage, but also put out at least a warning. All right? Just because you're coming, once you discover that the mainstream system out there has not necessarily been straight with you, that doesn't mean now that you're coming to quote unquote find your Hebrew roots or the Messianic that it's going to be any less messy. And it absolutely is just as messy. And so you must have fair warning to know that it's not as simple. It'd be like being a Catholic and deciding you're going to become a Protestant. Well, what flavor of that? There's so many, right? Well, so then you want to go further protesting what the church has done, and you end up in the quote-unquote Hebrew roots Messianic, and it's, again, the variety and the choices and the mess is abundant. So just let that be something that you tread with caution, that you are very slow to attach to anything, and that you are ready at all times to realize that some of the things that you knew and some of the things you're still being taught may not be correct. Because it's a very much a minefield out there, okay? And you go through that minefield, you have to be very careful. Because the more you feel like you've arrived and then you get blown up, the worse it feels, okay? Because then you get crushed again in your disappointment when you felt, because I know a lot of you were very upset and very angry when you realized you'd been lied to by the other system. Well, then you come into this, you get lied to again. And get lied to again and lied. And it's not that they're doing it any more on purpose than the church did. They're just doing the best they can where they are with the limited understanding they have. And they don't know how limited their understanding is, just like you didn't before you came out. And it's a journey from ignorance into understanding. Problem is, it takes a while to figure out just how ignorant we were or are at all times. And so just be really careful with that. I'm glad you found us. We're hoping to be a part of your successful part of your journey. But just realize there's a lot out there that's not necessarily going to lead you straight. It's going to lead you right into a ditch. It's going to look like it's leading you straight, but just be careful. Just a sort of public service announcement, okay, for all new people. All right? Because realize that anything you look up on the internet, you should already know this in any subject. There will be a person taking one side or another side or any possible sides of the subject that you want to read about. Any subject you could type into the internet, you'll find people for it or against it. Not everybody's all for or all against anything. And then they have their nuances of opinions about everything. And that includes religion. That includes belief systems. That includes Torah observance and our relationship with our Creator. Our relationship with our Messiah. All of the opinions that are out there. Just be very careful. And by careful, I mean don't just buy into something hook, line, and sinker without truly vetting it and making sure that the word lines up And by the way, when I say the word lines up, I don't mean lines up with what you think it says, but what it actually says. And that could be tough if you've been well churched and you've been well indoctrinated. You know? Anyway, just want to throw that out there as part of my prayer because this is an exciting journey, but it's a bumpy one for a new person. Okay? Very exciting, can be very bumpy. But hang on tight and make it through the, kind of like with the kayaking. I'm sure you went through some rough spots as well and bounced you around pretty good. But you got to hold on, okay? You got to hold on. And sometimes you get bounced around enough, it may make you sick, but you got to hold on. All right. Okay, anybody else? All right, let's get one of the men to raise their hands to open us in prayer. All right, Ben, come on up and open us in prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu, Abba Father, our King, may you help us to be open and understanding and grounded correctly to receive your word tonight. May you lift up all these prayers and unspokens. We know that you'll take care of us no matter what we think. I hope that we'll just trust in whatever it is you have for us as we walk into the unknown with joy and trust. And I ask all this in your Son, Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. So we're going to begin here with our reading section of the night. And so we have 6 readings, 5 chairs, and Rabbi Tom. So if we go ahead and fill in those 5 chairs. Like I said, it's a short Torah portion reading tonight. We only have 2 chapters to cover. One fairly long chapter, 57 verses. The other one's shorter with 33. All right, so we only have 90 verses to read. So it's not that long. Okay. So I'm going to call up each reader one at a time. I will recite a traditional blessing over each reader and tell them what verses they're going to read, and then we'll go all the way through till we're done. Then we'll have a traditional blessing after the readings and go into the announcements followed by the discussion. All right, we'll begin with Rabbi Tom. All right, he who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi Tom, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Rabbi Tom's going to take us in chapter 14 and read verses 1 through 13.
And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, This shall be the Torah of the leper for the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall go out of the camp, and the priest shall look and see if the leprosy is healed in the leper. Then the priest shall command, and he shall take for him who is to be cleansed 2 live and clean birds, and cedar wood, and scarlet, and hyssop. And the priest shall command, and he shall slay one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water. Let him take the live bird, and the cedar wood, and the scarlet, and the hyssop, and dip them and the live bird in the blood of the bird that was slain over the running water. And he shall sprinkle it 7 times on him who is to be cleansed from the leprosy, and shall pronounce him clean. And he shall let the live bird loose in the open field. And he who is cleansed shall wash his garments, and shall shave off all his hair, and wash himself in water, and shall be clean. Then after that he comes into the camp, but he shall stay outside his tent 7 days. And on the 7th day it shall be that he shaves all the hair off his head, and his beard, and his eyebrows, even all the hair he shaves off. And he shall wash his garments, and wash his body in water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day he takes 2 male lambs, perfect ones, and 1 ewe lamb, a year old, a perfect one, and 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering, and 1 log of oil. And the priest who is cleansing shall present the man who is to be cleansed with these offerings before Yahweh at the door of the tent of appointment. And the priest shall take 1 male lamb and bring it as a guilt offering, and the log of oil, and wave them as a wave offering before Yahweh. And he shall slay the lamb in the place where he slays the sin offering and the ascending offering in a set-apart place. For the guilt offering, like the sin offering, belongs to the priest. It is most set apart.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Rabbi Tom. Okay, next up we have Sarah Beth. Let me get this over here. All right. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Sarah Beth, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now from verse 14 to 29.
And the priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering, and the priest shall put it on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. And the priest shall take some of the log of oil, and pour it on the palm of his own left hand. And the priest shall dip his right finger in the oil that is in his left hand, and shall sprinkle some of the oil with his finger 7 times before Yahweh. And of the rest of the oil in his hand, the priest puts some on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on the blood of the guilt offering. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he puts on the head of him who is to be cleansed. And the priest shall make atonement before him before Yahweh. And the priest shall make the sin offering, and make atonement for him who is to be cleansed from his uncleanness. Then afterwards he slaughters the burnt offering. And the priest shall offer the burnt offering and the grain offering on the altar. And the priest shall make atonement for him, and he shall be clean. But if he is poor and is unable to afford it, then he shall take 1 male lamb as a guilt offering to be waved, to make atonement for him, and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering, and a log of oil, and 2 turtle doves, or 2 young pigeons, such as he is able to afford, and one shall be a sin offering, and the other a burnt offering. And he shall bring them to the priest on the 8th day for his cleansing, to the door of the tent of meeting, before Yahweh. And the priest shall take the lamb of the guilt offering and the log of oil, and the priest shall wave them as a wave offering before Yahweh. And he shall slaughter the lamb of the guilt offering, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering, and put it in the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Then the priest pours some of the oil into the palm of his own left hand, and the priest shall sprinkle with his right finger some of the oil that is in his left hand 7 times before Yahweh. And the priest shall put some of the oil that is in his hand on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on the place of the blood of the guilt offering. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he puts on the head of him who is to be cleansed, to make atonement for him before Yahweh.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Sarah Beth. All right, Rhonda. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rhonda, who's come up down out of Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, take us from verse 30 to 45.
And he shall prepare one of the turtle doves or young pigeons, such as he is able to afford, that which he is able to afford, the one as a sin offering and the other as a descending offering, with the grain offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him who is to be cleansed before Yahweh. This is the Torah for one who had an infection of leprosy, who is unable to afford for his cleansing. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aharon, saying, when you come into the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as a possession, and I put a plague of leprosy in a house in the land of your possession, then shall the one who owns the house come and inform the priest, saying, it seems to me that there is some plague in the house. And the priest shall command, and they shall empty the house before the priest goes in to look at the plague. so that all that is in the house is not made unclean. And after the priest goes in to look at the house, and he shall look at the plague and see if the plague is on the wall of the house with sunken places, greenish or reddish, which appears to be deep in the walls. Then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house and shut up the house 7 days. And the priest shall come again on the 7th day and look and see if the plague is spread on the walls of the house. Then the priest shall command, and they shall remove the stone with the plague in them, and they shall throw them outside the city into an unclean place, while he lets the house be scraped inside all around, and the dust that they scrape off shall pour out in an unclean place outside the city. And they shall take their stones and put them in the place of those stones, and take another mortar and plaster the house. And if the plague comes back and breaks out in the house after he has removed the stones, after he has scraped the house, and after it is plastered, then the priest shall come and look and see if the plague has spread in the house. It is an active leprosy in the house. It is unclean. And he shall break down the house, its stones and its timber, and all the plaster of the house, and shall bring them outside the city to an unclean place.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you. All right, Janet. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Janet, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us from verse 46 to the end of the chapter.
And he who goes into the house all the days while it is shut up becomes unclean until evening. And he who lies down in the house has to wash his garments, and he who eats in the house has to wash his garments. However, if the priest indeed comes in and looks at it, and sees that the plague has not spread in the house after the house was plastered, then the priest shall pronounce the house clean, because the plague is healed. And to cleanse the house, he shall take 2 birds, and cedar wood, and scarlet, and hyssop. And he shall slay one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water. And he shall take the cedar wood, and the hyssop, and the scarlet, and the live bird, and dip them in the blood of the slain bird, and in the running water, and shall sprinkle the house 7 times. He shall thus cleanse the house with the blood of the bird, and the running water, and the live bird, and with the cedar wood, and with the hyssop, and with the scarlet. And he shall let the live bird loose outside the city in the open field, and shall make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the Torah for any infection of leprosy and eruption, and for leprosy of a garment and of a house, and for a swelling and for a scab, and for a bright spot, to teach when it is unclean and when it is clean. This is the Torah of leprosy.
Amen. Amen. All right, thank you, Janet. Okay, Ashley. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Ashley, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. All right, chapter 15, verses 1 through 17.
And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, When any man has a discharge from his flesh, and his discharge is unclean, and this is his uncleanness in regard to his discharge, whether his flesh runs with his discharge, or his flesh is stopped up by his discharge, it is his uncleanness. Any bed becomes unclean on which he who has a discharge lie, and any object on which he sits becomes unclean. And anyone who touches his bed has to wash his garments, and shall be bathed in water, and shall be clean until evening. And he who sits on any object on which he who has a discharge sat has to wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and be unclean until evening. And he who touches the flesh of him who has a discharge has to wash his garments and shall bathe in water and shall be unclean until evening. And when he who has the discharge spits on him who is clean, then he shall wash his garments and shall bathe in water and shall be unclean until evening. Any saddle on which he who has a discharge rides becomes unclean. And whoever touches any of that water is unclean. Him is unclean until evening. And he who is carrying them up has to wash his garments and shall bathe in water and be unclean until evening. And anyone whom he has the discharge touches without rinsing his hands in water shall wash his garments and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. And the earthen vessel which he who has the discharge touches has to be broken, and every wooden vessel has to be rinsed in water. And when he who has a discharge is cleansed of his discharge, then he shall count for himself 7 days for his cleansing, and shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in his flesh in running water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day he takes for himself 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and shall come before Yahweh to the door of the tent of appointment, and shall give them to the priest. And the priest shall prepare them, the one as a sin offering, and the other as an ascending offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before Yahweh because of his discharge. And when a man has an emission of semen, then he shall wash all of his flesh in water and be unclean until evening. And any garment and any leather on which is semen shall also be washed with water and be unclean until evening.
Amen. Oh, you got that one last year too? It's always a woman that gets those ones. You know that? All right, Taylor. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Taylor, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now from verse 18 to the end of the chapter.
And when a woman lies with a man, and there is an emission of semen, they shall both bathe in water and be unclean until evening. And when a woman has a discharge, and the discharge from her flesh is blood, she has to be in her separation for 7 days, and whoever touches her is unclean until evening. And whatever she lies on during her separation is unclean, and whatever she sits on is unclean, and anyone who touches her bed has to wash his garments, and shall bathe in water and be unclean until evening. Whoever touches any object that she sat on has to wash his garments and shall bathe in water and be unclean until evening. And if it is on the bed or on any object on which she sits, when he touches it, he is unclean until evening. And if a man lies with her at all, and her monthly flow is on him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and any bed he lies on is unclean. And when a woman has a discharge of blood for many days, other than at the time of her monthly separation, or when she discharges beyond her usual time of monthly separation, all the days of her unclean discharge shall be as the days of her monthly separation. She is unclean. Any bed on which she lies, all the days of her discharge, is to her as the bed of her monthly separation. And whatever she sits on is unclean, as the uncleanness of her monthly separation. And anyone who touches them is unclean, and shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and be unclean until evening. But if she is cleansed of her discharge, then she shall count for herself 7 days, and after that she is clean. And on the 8th day she takes for herself 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and shall bring them to the priest to the door of the tent of appointment. And the priest shall prepare the one as a sin offering, and the other as an ascending offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her before Yahweh for the discharge of her uncleanness. Thus you shall separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, lest they die in their uncleanness when they defile my dwelling place, which is in their midst. This is the Torah for one who has a discharge, and for him who admits semen, it is unclean thereby.
Amen. Amen. All right, so thank you all the readers. Good job. Excellent. Appreciate that very much. The traditional blessing after the Torah reading. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Yahweh noten haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh your Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. Amen. All right, let's go through some announcements here. Okay, first I want to start off by welcoming our guests. I know it has been brought up by some, and all the ones who didn't say it probably were thinking it, that, man, these announcements get pretty long. Well, they're important. Now, maybe you've heard them each time, but then I don't want to hear a word that you asked something that was in the announcements that you weren't listening to. But they're important because we do have guests, and wouldn't you like them to know what we're doing, what's going on, and what they can take part in? Okay, so this is why we have to go through the announcements. All right, so we do want to welcome our guests. I'm sure we have some online. How many people we got on there, or at least computers logged in?
175
Okay, 175 computers. All right, fantastic. All right, so for the guests, we want to express the trait of hospitality. We want to be hospitable like Abraham, as we are children of Abraham. And we do ask the guests to, we expect you to behave like a guest. In other words, you're here visiting with us and checking us out, and hopefully, this would be something that you might enjoy, maybe want to continue to participate in, but if not, that's okay. We understand that what we do and the way we do it may not be for everybody. But we do ask that you be respectful if you don't agree with some of the things that are being done. There's a way to disagree without being disagreeable. I think we should all understand that. All right, so what do we have that we provide that you could certainly participate in? By the way, if you're a guest, let me start off by saying nothing that I have to say is for sale. It's all free, okay? So I'm not trying to lead up to some pitch here to get into your pockets, all right? All right, so we do stream like we're doing right now every Tuesday night, okay? Every Tuesday night is Torah Tuesdays. We started about 6:30, a little over half an hour ago, about 40 minutes ago. And we go for about 2 to 3 hours as we go through the weekly Torah portion cycles. If you just found us, we do this every week. There are some exceptions that we will note here in a minute with the rest of the announcements, where we either don't have a study because we're going to have a break because of feasts, or we may change the time of the study because of a feast. But almost all the weeks of the year, at least 49 to 50 of them, we do this on Tuesday nights at 6:30, okay? All right, we also have a program for the children that goes along with that. It's called Parsha Pearls. Okay, this is the same cycle that we go through as adults, going through the first 5 books of Scripture, but we do it at their level in an enjoyable way. It's a free program. It has its own website, mtoi.org. And if you go there, you can download one of 2 different PDFs with all of the materials that I'm about to describe. So we have 2 different groups. We have the younger group, age 5 through 8. We call them Gem Seekers, and then the older one, 9 through 12. We call them Pearl Seekers. We often refer to them actually as Katan Aleph and Katan Bet, or Katan A and Katan B. Katan in Hebrew means small, okay? So these are the smaller children, and they're like I said, from 5 to 8, or about 9 to about 19. And these programs are just absolutely fantastic. The children will definitely learn a lot and enjoy it as well. Now, everything I'm about to list is all in each one of those PDFs, about 35 pages each. And each one has everything I'm going to say, not some, but all of it, really. And every bit of it is connected to that week's Torah portion. It's all also produced by us. We did it ourselves. I had fun with that word the other day. I thought I'd just continue to have fun. Okay? And so we have, in these packages, we have lessons from that Torah portion, lesson questions, Hebrew word studies, in other words, some flashcards you can print out with a few of the Hebrew words from the Torah portion, memory verses, word searches, crossword puzzles, mazes, crafts, notebook pages, coloring pages, even a song and a snack, all with instructions. Like, you see a craft or a notebook page or a snack, everything is detailed with instruction and pictures, so you can see what it is that you're making, okay? All right, so it's a fantastic program. Enjoy it. We publish this on Sundays, so you can have it for the whole week. So the thing we're doing tonight, Metzora, would have published on Sunday. Actually, it was a double portion, Tazria, Metzora, so that published 2 weeks ago and was the same one again for this week. We broke it up into the 2 separate weeks for this year's cycle. Okay, now, so that publishes on Sundays. Enjoy it with your Sabbath schooling. We do it here as part of our Sabbath school. And if you're a homeschooler, you may use it during the week for your homeschooling. And for any parent out there that said, I don't know what to do to keep my children busy during all of the time that the Sabbath, they get bored. Well, give them this. This will keep them busy. Lots of activities, lots of things to do, and they'll have a great time. All right. So then we also have our Sabbath services. Okay, so we stream every Saturday also live here on YouTube. That's at 1:15 Eastern Time. And so you're welcome to come and join us for that. That does run till about 5:30, so a little over 4 hours. And, we have praise time, prayer time, liturgy time, teaching time, a good time, okay? Okay? All right, so we do stream every Saturday. The stream actually starts at 1. We go live at 1:15 with the sounding of the shofar. And so you're all welcome to join us for that right here on YouTube. All right. We also post things during the week. So on Mondays, on YouTube, we post what's called the First Look. This is like a preview of the full teaching that we'll post on Wednesday. So this is powerful sound bites from the teaching for that week. Okay, so maybe 15, 20 minutes, something to kind of get you all excited and looking forward to the full teaching, which comes out then on Wednesday. Okay, so Wednesday, you can switch. There you go. Wednesday is the current teaching for that week, which right now we're in the series called Evil. All right, so those teachings post on Wednesdays, and sometimes if we don't, because of things like our zone meetings, we sometimes post things from, those kind of Zone 1 Q&As. So we do get those posted in there occasionally as well. Okay, so Wednesdays is the teaching time. Then Thursdays, it's our afterburn. Okay, after each teaching, each Saturday, I take questions from and hear comments and thoughts from people who just heard the teaching. Because as a teacher, it's really important for me to get feedback to know whether or not you received what I said the way I intended it. And one of the best ways to do that is open up the floor for questions. And a lot of really good stuff comes out of those questions, so we post those on Thursdays. And then Fridays, we post what's called an In Focus, which is a mini teaching inside of one of the other teachings that kind of holds its own. And so it's a short video that focuses on topics that affect our relationship and with our Elohim and each other. But I want you to know these are not new separate teachings. They came out of a teaching, and it always tells you what teaching it came out of. So you know if you want to hear the whole teaching where you can go to hear that. Okay? All right. So we post all these things on YouTube all week long for you to hopefully be helped or enhanced in your journey from what you are to what he is. All right, these are all meant to be useful tools in that change, in that transformation, in that journey. All right, then we have a thing called Torah Time for Teens. That's on Thursdays. Okay, Thursdays in the afternoon with Rabbi Tom. Okay, this is hosted on Zoom. Okay, so it's a teenager program. So if you're not with a teen in your age, so it's 13 to 19-year-olds only, please. And to get the link to the Zoom meeting, you simply send an email to torahtime@mtoi.org, and it will auto-respond back with the link, okay? And so same link works every week, so you don't have to do this every week, but if you lose it or forget what you did with it, whatever, you could always send another email, and it'll automatically send you a link. We average about 25 to 30 teenagers from around the world, and literally from around the world. There'll be teenagers from other countries in there, and so it's a fantastic opportunity for your teenagers to interact with each other, to interact with the rabbi, to interact with the word, and to also get a little bit of international flavor and get to meet some people from around the world. And so, fantastic. Now, if you're a parent who wants to know, and I don't blame you, wants to know what's going on in these classes, please, if you go to, if you want to come and see what's going on, don't get on camera. The Zoom is a camera, driven thing where the children are on camera so they can see each other and talk to each other, get to know each other. And so as soon as an adult walks in, it automatically changes the tone and the feel, and the teenagers start to clam up and not want to just be themselves. And so we want them to feel free. So if you want to check out what we're doing, just try not to be on camera. Stand off to the side and listen in if you want to do that. Okay. Then we have our Erev Shabbat Siddur service, our liturgy service, every Friday night. Okay. All right, that's at 8 o'clock p.m. Friday night. Do whatever you're going to do first before coming here. In other words, we're not serving a meal. Okay, you can bring dessert, and we'll have dessert afterwards. But eat at home. Start your Sabbath at home, although some of the times as we're getting further in towards the summer, Sabbath won't even start by the time we're starting this. But go ahead and do the things you do Friday night at home, and then come here at 8 o'clock for liturgy. And also then, if you want, bring dessert, and we stay and hang out and enjoy the beginning of the Shabbat together with dessert. Okay, it makes it a very sweet beginning to the literally for the Shabbat. Okay, then we have our zone meetings. All right, now, normally they don't go exactly in the order we're going to do them here, but because this month has Passover, right when we would be doing one of the zone meetings, we're going to do them a little bit out of order. We want, as a ministry, to serve the needs of those everywhere in the world, and quite frankly, we are not, so maybe selfishly minded to not realize that when we're doing Shabbat here, it's not Shabbat everywhere. I'm trying to find the right way of wording. We're not so myopic as to think, well, we're doing Shabbat services, but what if you're wanting to be a part of this and you live someplace that's 7, 10, 12, 15 hours ahead? Well, then it's already Sunday, or at least after sundown. So we want to do something at least once a month for people no matter where they live, on Sabbath when it's Sabbath where they are, on Shabbat. So we call these zone meetings based on time zones or ranges of time zones. So zone 3 is normally the third Friday of the month, but the third Friday this month is the Passover meal. So we're going to be doing it the second Friday this month. But just so you note for the future, it's almost always going to be the third Friday of the month, okay? So zone 3 is the next zone meeting. This is the people who live in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, the Philippines, Malaysia, China, Singapore, Indonesia, India, all places that are 12 to, say, 16, 17 hours ahead, okay? We meet on Friday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, okay? 10 p.m. Eastern time here. So you have to do the math and figure that out, and be aware that we do change our clocks for daylight savings, so you'll need to know that you need to change your clock. I did have a meeting actually with somebody in Japan the other day. I was an hour late, he was on time, and since he forgot that we changed our clocks, we were both on time. So it worked out for me. I apologize for being late, and he said, what are you talking about? Okay, because he forgot we moved our clocks. So just keep that in mind. 10 o'clock's like right now, in case, well, unless you're not watching live. Right now it's about, 7:18 p.m. here, and just figure out whatever time it is where you are. All right, now, so the zone meetings are an opportunity to ask questions of me, the teacher of this group, the leader of this group, so that you can understand more about either what we believe, or if you are submitted under this ministry, you need answers to questions so you know what to do. And so this is an opportunity each month for each zone to ask questions. So as I go through the 3 zones, everybody is invited to every meeting. Doesn't matter where you live. It's the people who live in the particular zone that week that we're having the meeting that get to ask the questions. And we had a really good Zone 1 meeting last week. It was fantastic. Saturday, okay? All right. So following Zone 3, for an unusual circumstance, on Saturday right afterwards is Zone 2. Normally it would be the reverse, but okay. So Zone 2 is April 9th. That's the second Saturday of the month, okay? And so Zone 2 is at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And so that is for people like in the UK, Europe, Africa, places that are 5 to 8 or so hours ahead of us, all right? So same thing. I didn't mention this, but Zone 2 and Zone 3, these are on Zoom. Okay, Zone 2, Zone 3 on Zoom. And you have to email us at zoom@mtoi.org to get the link. Zoom@mtoi.org to get the link. Okay, then we have our Zone 1 meeting. Okay, and the next one for that will be May 7th. Okay, it's the first Saturday of the month, and it's during the service live on YouTube. Okay, it's a Saturday service during our live service on May the 7th. All right, so that takes care of the zone meetings. If you have questions and you want to contact us with your questions, you can go to the MTOI.org Contact Us page. At the bottom of the page, there's a form you can fill out, and it will submit your questions here. Or you can just email us at questions@mtoi.org. always I like to remind you, if it's something that is time sensitive, urgent, make sure to, if you send it this way, I'd rather you just call us if you can. But if you're going to send us an email, put urgent or something like that in the subject line so we know to try to put a priority on the question, okay? All right. That's questions at MTOI.org, or just go to the Contact Us page of the MTOI.org website. All right, now, so coming up on our regular scheduled events here, we have our leadership meeting on the 10th, okay? So we have a very full weekend. We got Zone 3, Zone 2, and then the leadership meeting. So please pray for the leadership meeting. Okay, this is once a month on a Sunday. We usually go 3 or 4 hours of about 27 leaders around the world of different congregations that are all part of MTOI. And we meet together to discuss how we can work together more effectively or as effectively as we can on behalf of the Father. All right, so please pray for the Father's will to be done in these meetings. All right. Then we have Passover. All right, so Pesach 2022, we have over 400 of you coming. We're very excited for that. Okay, so April the 15th. Okay, and if you notice on the screen, it says registration is now closed. Okay, we have to plan, and if the numbers keep changing, it's very hard to plan because we are providing meals and seats and different things for the youth programs, and so the registration is now closed. If you have an extenuating circumstance, you can appeal to the court system here in the appeal system. Look, we want everybody who wants to come, but we have to be able to plan. We can't just have chaos. So, but you certainly are welcome. If you have an appeal to make, we will consider that. All right. I don't want to sound harsh and cold, but I want you to think of as closed at this point. Okay. So Friday, April 15th is the Passover meal. Saturday is the first holy day. It's also the Sabbath. Then on the 22nd, that Friday is the last holy day. Since the last holy day is on a Friday, goes right into Shabbat, we're going to stay all the way through the weekend. Okay, that's why our dates are so long, from the 15th to the 24th. There's a schedule of activities on our website, mtoi.org/Passover, and so you can see all the things that are going on here. People are asking this question, so I'll say it here during the announcements. When a holy day falls on Shabbat, Shabbat rules rule. Okay? Because people are asking, well, we know we're allowed to cook on a holy day, but what if the holy day is on Shabbat? Then you're not allowed to cook. Okay? Because Shabbat is the highest of the days. Okay? So Shabbat rules always take precedence. All right. Now, you should be getting phone calls from our staff giving you the opportunities to sign up to serve, okay, to choose a slot and a time and a type of activity that you want to help and serve in, so you should be getting that. If you get a message left or an email or something, please respond to it so we can get you signed up in the serving duties. That would really be helpful. Let's see, what else did I have for the Passover? Plan to bring your color code lanyard. We will have new ones for people that don't have them, but please bring your lanyards if you have. I don't have enough for everybody because I expect that some of you have yours and will bring them, okay? YM2I feast songs. Okay, the feast songs for the YM2I program. If you go to ym2i.org/feast, their songs, look for the group called Proverbs, the Proverbs, okay? Because there's other songs on there as well, but those are from other events that we've done in the past, and we may use them again for other things. But you're looking for the ones called the Proverbs. Okay, each song has an instrumental track, a vocal track, and downloadable lyrics. So your children can learn the songs, and we really, really would appreciate, and so will your children, if you start teaching them the songs now, so that they know them before they get here, okay? That would really help. All right, YM2I feast lessons. If you are leading a group or doing these things at home as a leadership person, contact Rebitz and Julie at mtoi.org to receive the feast lessons, and that will be worked out there. If you have any questions, contact her. She's only going to be doing this till Friday. Okay, if you need these things, you have to respond by April the 8th. Okay, the Haggadah songs, we do have the book that we use for the Passover meal is called the Haggadah. I wrote the book many years ago, and there's a tutorial on YouTube and links so you can download the book. If you're not going to be able to do the service here, you can follow along in the same book that we're going to be using here. And there's also links to the songs that the children sing during that service, and you can learn the songs and hear Brianna do a beautiful job of singing them. Okay. For the events during the week, we do have some family fun nights. I think somewhere on one of the schedules I just wrote family fun or something like that and left the word night out or something, or just, I don't know. It's all the same thing. It's just user error in typing. Bring games. We're going to have fun and play, okay? All right. Start prepping to get your leaven out. Okay, we have the Passover Q&A and to get out the leaven teachings to help you know what to get out of your house. You know, it's already the 5th. You only got 10 days. I mean, it's only 10 days till Passover. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. All right. That was underwhelming. Okay, so there's no Torah study on the Tuesday after Passover, okay, because we're going to be ending that Sunday, moving all the equipment back in, and so we're not going to have a Torah study on that Tuesday, April the 26th. And next week, that Tuesday, we're going to have a teaching by Mr. Shane Bidwell. Okay? Now, the Jewish community generally doesn't do a Torah study during the event. So we're going to do one during the event so that we don't fall behind, okay? And they wouldn't be doing one on, because remember, we do it on Tuesday prior to the Saturday that they would be doing theirs. And they're not going to do one on either of those 2 Saturdays. So that's why we have that extra space that we can do other things. So Shane's going to do a teaching next Tuesday, and then we'll have our normal Torah portion during the feast. Look for it on the schedule. It'll be on Tuesday, I believe, still anyway, because that's what we normally do. And then there won't be a Torah study on the 26th, okay? All right. May the 2nd is our next Rosh Chodesh, which is for the month of ER, okay? May the 2nd, and that will be dinner at 7, and then we're going to have our service at 8, okay? And then because we're having Rosh Chodesh on a Monday night, it's a Monday night, then we're not going to have our Erev Shabbat service that Friday, because we're going to already have dinner and a service on Tuesday. So we will do the liturgy that Friday night, okay, on the 6th. Okay, no Erev Shabbat get-together in May. All right, that covers it for the announcements, I believe. So let's go ahead and get to our midrash, our discussion of this week's Torah portion. All right, so the way this works is you have a comment or question, you can line up over here. Or if you're online, we've got our Shamish team, guarding the gates, so to speak. And so please allow them to lead in the chat room. And Grayson will be noting the comments and questions to read over the microphone. All right? I'm sure that, you got Rob and Kurt in there? Okay, so you got your two Shamish guys with the chat room. I don't know what the best way. They're fantastic with running the chat room. So just please respect their leadership in the chat room. All right, Mr. Steve, Shamish Steve.
All right, 14:2. It says, "He shall be brought to the priest." So to me, it caught that he was taken to somebody of authority. They didn't have a group discussion on Facebook or ask their best friend. It was a leader that made the ruling.
Right. I mean, we talked about this last week. It's worth saying again. Okay, the priest had a role. There was a vertical structure there for the role. And their job was to have things brought to them, to evaluate them, and tell you what to do next. And if it was not clear, they would tell you to go do something, to be patient and wait, and then come back again, and they would evaluate it again. The emphasis that I want to make, though, is let's say it didn't turn out to be, on first inspection, clear that it was tzara'at, or leprosy. Really, tzara'at and leprosy are not exactly the same thing. We talked about that last week. But it wasn't clear enough to call it that. And so they said, well, go take another 7 days and come back. Well, if you took 7 days and, in your opinion, it started looking pretty good, and you didn't go back, you still were breaking the instruction. You still needed to go back and allow them to rule that it wasn't the tzara'at or the leprosy, okay? And so that's following directions is one of the reasons that Abba allows us to exist, and he gives us all these instructions. He wants to see if he's going to spend forever with you, can you follow instruction? And I can tell you, as someone who's been leading people for a long time, most of you struggle in one way or another at times with following instructions. Especially when you think that you came up with the answer yourself. Well, I just assumed that everything was good, so I didn't need to come and see you. Well, not if I told you to come and see me. All right? Okay. We also have to understand that if you were told to go see somebody in specific, and on your way there, somebody else jumps in, or gets involved, or you involve them, and they kind of give you an answer, and then you just turn around and go back your way, you didn't follow instructions. So if you were supposed to see me, and somebody else kind of got there before you got to me, and then you took their answer, that was also a mistake. Or if you were sent to one of the elders, or if you were sent to one of the Rebbitzins, make sure if you were sent to, that you go to the person you were sent to. Doesn't mean that the person in between might not have been right, technically, about like their information, etc. But the structure must be guarded, because that's what Abba is watching. He wants to see how you behave inside of his structure. And so the things that he wants you to go to the priest for, you need to go to the priest for. The things that he needs you to go to your brother about, you need to go to your brother about. The things you need to come to him about, you need to come to him about. And there's no substituting. You go to who you're supposed to go to. All right, so that's a good question. Very good point. Okay. Janet.
Thank you, Rabbi. I have a question about, where is it? Well, I have two questions. One is 1447. When it says, he who goes into the house all the days, but then he said, no, it's he who lies down in the house has to wash his garments, and he who eats in the house has to wash his garments. So eating will be more like partaking and...
No, you got to understand that you're not... A lot of this has to simply do with the physical contact, okay? You sit when you eat. You lay down. He said when you lay down, that's a problem. You got to wash your garments. And if you eat, they didn't generally eat standing up. They sat. And where did they sit? On the ground, okay? And maybe leaning against a wall or something. I mean, so they didn't have the furniture that we have, and they weren't just standing around. They sat, okay? Good.
Okay, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
then the other one was 34, when it says, when you come into the land, so this is Yahweh speaking to Moshe, says, when you come into the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as a possession, and I put a plague of leprosy in the house. So they kind of knew when the plague was coming from him. So obviously we also are punished.
Okay, so again,
okay.
This is where we get that confusion with things like leprosy or calling it black mold or some other thing that may be on the house. This is from Yahweh and is, by our best guess, because of that, behavior or sin related. Okay, it's not just a bacteria or a mold or something. It's not a disease like leprosy. This is something that is manifesting as a plague by your behavioral choices. And behavioral choices, I'm not talking about just hygiene. I'm talking about there's some sort of sin or inappropriate behavior going on. That's why he says, when I put this on you. So why does he plague mankind? What's the reason for plagues? To get your attention. He says, if you will not listen to me, I will plague you. I will curse you. At one point he said, I'll curse you 7 times or send plagues 7 times. And then if that doesn't work, I'll do it 7 times more and again 7 times more, etc. And in one of them he says, if you're not instructed by these curses and these plagues, I'll curse you some more. Because it's supposed to instruct us, get our attention so that we seek out to figure out what the problem is. All right, good. You know what, let me just this will take like 30 seconds or so. Let me give you my quick overview of these 2 chapters, all right? So chapter 14, the first 32 verses, is basically showing you that there's a sliding scale for those that can't afford their cleansing, okay? I mean, just to simplify it. So wherever you fit financially, you know what you're supposed to do in terms of the cleansing, right? These are the rules about cleansing after you've been discerned to be clean, okay, or what to do at that point. Verse 14 talks about blood. Actually, it's other parts of chapter 14, verse 14, 17, 25, 28, are all talking about putting blood or oil on the tip of the right ear, right thumb, big toe of the right foot, okay? So what's that all about? Okay, so starts off with the right ear. What do we use ears for? Hearing, listening, Shema. So we're anointing the right ear so that the person might actually listen better, because there may have been a listening problem. Because if you're breaking anything, there was a listening problem. Then it says on the right thumb. What's the thumb attached to? Your hands. What are the hands symbolic of? Your actions, what you do. Okay, the work of the hands, the things that you do. So they're saying that you may not have been listening properly, and then the things you did were not exactly what you should be doing. So let's anoint your right thumb of the right hand, the thumb of the right hand. Then the big toe of the right foot. What do your feet represent? Your walk. And so there may be a problem with your walk. Okay, so these are why we see them do this with the priests. When they anointed the priest, they took some of the blood, put it on the ear, the thumb, and the big toe. And the same thing here with the person that is cleansed, all right? Because it's supposed to remind you of the three areas of your life that you need to be really focused on. Are you listening? Are you doing what you're supposed to? And are you walking the right way? And so that's what that's about. Chapter 14, 34 to 53 is what to do when there's sarat in the house. Okay, so it talks about what to do when it's in your house. Chapter 15, the first 18 verses are about men's discharges. And then the 19 to 30 is about women's discharges, just to kind of keep it as simple as that, all right? And so, of course, men and women don't necessarily have the same types of discharges, but it's saying that when you do have these things, it makes you unclean, all right? Now, the only other note that I have before I take more questions is that you may want to ask, well, why is this a sin offering or burnt offering or grain offering mentioned in these different places? Okay, they're referring to the already instructed processes. So they're telling you that this is a grain offering. We should know what a grain offering looks like. And he's saying, but I want you to do this particular thing, and all the rest of it is like you would normally do. Okay? I want you to bring this particular animal, and this is how you would do this burnt offering, or this is how you would do your sin offering. So it's not necessarily that it has to do with the fact that it was sin-related or going back to the purpose of it. It's the structural part that's being referred to here more than anything else. Does that make sense? Because this is dealing with the cleansing, but he's saying, I want you to take this animal and I want you to do this type of offering, which you have instruction in the first 5 chapters on how to do those. Did that help clear that up for everybody? Okay? Because I know sometimes people are asking me, well, why does this have to do with sin? Or why does this have to do with... It doesn't necessarily. Sometimes it might not. But the point is, it's, in this case, telling you, this piece I want you to know, all the rest of it, do exactly what you would do for that type of offering. Because you know that process was explained to you already previously. All right. Okay, so now we can go to you, Steve.
All right, just to tail on to what you were talking about before you did your thing was the something you didn't quite mention was there's consequences for actions, and sometimes those consequences are everlasting. Even though there may be forgiveness, there's still the consequences for what you chose to do. So I wanted to make that point. And then in 1430, you kind of touched on it, but I thought, to me, it said that even when it wasn't possible, Abba made a way for you to do what you might not normally be able to.
Amen. I mean, he also understood that not everybody is going to be in the same financial place. But there's no respect of persons, though. You still have to do, but you doing, 2 pigeons may be the same as somebody else doing a bull based on your financial status. And so you don't have the option to do any which one you want. It has to do with what you can afford. If you can't, and that's where you have to be honest between you and your Elohim. all right? And so, this money thing, this finance thing, in this case, it's dealing with animals, which the same thing in those days was like money or finance, because that's what they traded and dealt with for business. It's a very interesting subject, and we all struggle. Well, until we don't, we all struggle. At some point, we finally figure it out, and then we don't struggle. But until we figure it out, we struggle. And I want to get in your face just a little bit. He gives you a tithing system. And I'm not going to be talking about the one that comes here. I'm going to talk about the second one. I don't know what the right word emotionally is for me. I don't want to know if I'm frustrated, disappointed, just tired of hearing it, or what. I don't know what it is, but I don't understand those who've been doing this for more than 5 minutes, how you have no money for the feast. Because you're actually instructed, commanded to have that. So I have people telling me they can't afford to come. And I don't understand that. No, I understand how they're broke. I don't understand how they haven't fixed it. I don't understand why it's not urgent. I don't understand where, if you were told Yeshua was going to be there, would you figure it out? He's going to be there. Father's going to be there. They're all going to be there in presence, so to speak. But yet, you won't prioritize this. And this is money so that you can be blessed and enjoy and celebrate before him. Deuteronomy 14, okay? And so I don't know what it's going to take to wake some of you up. Now, there are those of you that are disabled, handicapped, and poor outside of your ability to do something. That's not the people I'm talking to now, okay? I don't want you feeling all terrible and guilty if you actually are there and need. As a matter of fact, you're a blessing to the rest of us because then we get to help you, and that's a blessing Scripture talks about. But it's all the rest of you that have really no excuse, except that actually you probably have 100 excuses. If I were to talk to you, you'd give me them all. Well, this happened in my life, and this happened in my job, and this happened in this and that, and I'm just not this, and my husband now, my wife, and my kids, and my, you know what? That all sounds like this blah, blah, blah noise. Okay? And I've had to tell a few people this year that we're not helping them. I'm saying that just so that all of you can understand, because you may hear about these things. But these aren't people that it's the first or the second or the third time, and they're still not doing what they need to do. And so we said no, because that's not really helping them. Now, sadly, some of them are going to roll up in a ball, suck their thumb, and quit. But that's their choice. Instead, you could stand up and get going. Get on with it. All right? I tell this story, and I guess it's the same good metaphor. Had a gentleman that was unemployed, homeless. We put him in temporary housing. Forgot about him for a week or two as we were paying for him to be in this temporary housing. Gave him a call to find out how things were going. Was he going to then be able to get out on his own, get a job and all this stuff? And he had done nothing the whole time but sit in a room, play video games, and who else, whatever he was doing. Okay? And I told him, because he was spending the ministry's money to do nothing, that I wasn't here to enable that. I said, look, I'm going to come over there today. If you don't get up and go get a job right now, go apply for some jobs right now. Within walking distance of where you are, there's at least 15 fast food places you can go to. I am going to come over there, and I'm going to beat the whatever out of you. Now, that's not the right way to talk to anybody, okay? But I wanted to get his attention. And I hung up the phone and looked at the person who was working with me at the time, who was sitting next to me, who heard the call. I said, what do you think? 50-50, he's curled up in a ball crying and ready to quit life, or that he got up and went out? Now, to his credit, he got up and went out. Okay? But the thing is, where are you going to be when life does that to you? Or when someone like me gets in your business like that. Okay? It's meant to spark a reaction towards, not in a reaction away, but towards him. And so, yes, he has a sliding scale. You can come to a feast and enjoy it quite well without enjoying it over the top, affluent, abundantly. And maybe someday you could do both. But what are you doing? I don't know how many times I have to have a conversation with, and I can name lots and lots of people who I say, so do you have the job yet? No. Why? Or they come and volunteer, and I go, wow, I'm glad you're here, but why do you have so much free time? Why are you not working? Or it's somebody that's got a reason to be off, but they could be working on their side hustle even though they have a job. Or something to work on. Unless their finances are perfect, I don't know what they're doing. Okay? And this is a wake-up call to all of us. Abba wants you to be abundant, but he wants you to work at it. It's not just going to start having diamonds fall into your hands from the sky. You can go to some bizarre pagan church for that. Okay? He wants you to work and make a commitment. You don't get to come to this feast? No problem. You commit to be at the next one. And then you're going to do what's necessary to be at the next one. And don't tell me you never had anything in your life that you wanted bad enough that you did whatever it took to have it. You don't want it that bad. That's the Let's be honest. When you were a little kid and you wanted something, you would annoy that mom or dad and drive them insane till you got what you wanted. Where did that kid go? You grew up and we kept hearing the word no and whatever, and you can't, and then you gave up. Sometimes you got to spark that relentless child out of you and say, I'm going to make this happen. And instead of bothering mom, because you couldn't do it yourself back then, you got to bother you and make sure you get it done. Because otherwise you come and treat me like I'm mom and you want to bother me for it. And then or dad, exactly. And that's not helping you. And then you get mad at me when I tell you, no, you need to fix this. This is, a very important thing. And I'm only saying this because we're about to go into Passover. We got a little, just 10 days from now. And some of you sadly won't be there because of your finances. I'm not picking on you. I'm not judging you. I'm trying to wake you up so that you do what's necessary to be at the next one. Because I have people all the time telling me, well, I can't afford the meals and I can't afford housing and I can't afford to travel. Why? Look, if you make $15 an hour, it's not a lot. I think most people can make that. That's $30,000 a year. That's $3,000 time. Let's go to $10 an hour. $10 an hour is $20,000 a year. That's $2,000 tithe. Do you think you could afford to show up? Pay for the meals, pay for a hotel, everything on that? $2,000? You can go to at least both feasts, the big ones. I don't see how that's not a lot of money. That's a little over minimum wage. It's probably less than minimum wage now in some states. It's raised it to 15. Even McDonald's pays 15. Okay? I mean, a lot of places are now offering, depends on where, not necessarily in this state, but in other states they're offering just because they can't get people to work. Fast food places are certainly offering 10 to 12. I don't understand where and then if you got a wife, kids, and everything, and you're making 50, I don't know what you're spending your money on while you don't have 5 or whatever you need to come to the feasts. It doesn't cost that much, but you're not making it a priority. See, because you don't know how broke you are, because you keep thinking all the money you get is yours. You do. And so you're not thinking that you have 20 or 30% less because of what's his. Then you'd realize you're not making enough money. Because you're thinking, I make enough, I could just barely make it. I can't afford to go to the feast. I can't afford to tithe. No, you're not making enough money. Or you're spending too much or some combination. And you got to do something about it. I have no problem talking this way because I work my you-know-what off all the time for 50 years. Since I was not even probably 10 or 12 having newspaper routes and whatever you did when you were a little kid. My kids never did any of that. I was working from the earliest days they could let you work, deliver papers. Nobody even gets papers anymore. But that's, but we just don't work. And there's a lot of things you can do. You don't have to even be physically fit. You could sit at a desk. You could do it with a computer, with a phone. There's so many things you could do. But you got to want it bad enough. Sorry to go off on this tangent, but this Torah portion doesn't have as much in it. I want to just make sure I give you as much as I can. And quite frankly, this is a today thing for a lot of you with the feast coming up. And I really want to inspire you. Do you think I'm just scolding? No, I'm trying to, come on, wake up. You can do this is what I'm trying to do. You can do this. I know you have excuses of why you can't do this. That's all garbage. It's all garbage. Because every one of you with that excuse, I could find you at least a dozen or more people that I could find quickly that have the same excuses but overcame them and still got there. Or worse than whatever you're whining about. That's all garbage. Anybody ever heard of Stephen Hawking? Thought to be one of the smartest people that ever was around. In a wheelchair, had to type through a speaking, computer thing to speak from everything else. He wrote books, did speaking engagements, taught classes. He could barely function physically. And you whine like you can't do anything. But you're going to say, well, I'm not as smart as him. Yeah, but you're also not as handicapped as him either. It's a trade-off. Okay? He couldn't work at a fast food restaurant. You can. He couldn't work at places you can because he was in a wheelchair and he couldn't communicate except by typing it and having the thing speak for him. And so you can do this, and you need to, for yourself, to show yourself what you can do, to show yourself what you're capable of, so you can start believing in you becoming him. Amen? All right. All right, Justin.
All right, first off, Rabbi, I don't think that was a tangent. I think that was perfect for the portion because it's trying to get our attention, just like the leprosy. I think that was excellent. Secondly, my question is, can you please explain to me in 1453 where it speaks of making atonement for your house?
Okay, so in 53, it's not so much making atonement for the house. You're making atonement because the problem manifested in the house. So you could just as easily have said making atonement for the garment when it was the garment. Okay?
Could this pertain to anything to do with possibly your house and in your family, your house, your home, in that sense too?
Yeah, I mean, everything is an extension of you. But, I want to actually go in a direction from what you said. You said that everything that I said was connected to the portion. I'm going to connect this in an interesting way. Because the portion talks about discharges out of you that make you unclean. Every whiny, complainy excuse is a discharge out of your mouth making you unclean. How's that? Okay? As gross as all that is, think of that every time you go and you start whining about life and complaining and judging and criticizing. And that is unclean discharge out of your mouth. All right? That's the analogy he gave me. So if you don't like it, blame him. Okay. All right? I want you to connect that image of all this gross and think of that every time that junk comes out of your mouth. Okay? That makes you unclean. Unclean, what does tameh mean? Unfit or unclean to participate in a certain level of vertical relationship. And so when that junk comes out of your mouth, you are unclean, in my opinion. You are unfit for that vertical stuff. You are not ready for that relationship. All right? Yeah. Okay. All right, live stream.
So there's a general question. Do the cleaning rituals that we read about still account for today?
Okay, we're not doing these things today for what should be the obvious reasons. They require priests. They require a temple. Can't do offerings and sacrifices just anywhere. That is scripture. You can't just do them in your backyard or anywhere you want. It says they have to be done in the place he names to be the place. And that was, once it became the temple, that was it for these things. And there will not be any more offerings or sacrifices until there's a temple again. And then there will be. So when that happens, all of these things will be back in play. All right? Until then, they're interesting for us to note and learn and try to get other metaphors out of them like the one I gave you. All right, what else?
From MTOI Philippines Jet, Rabbi, what's the best encouragement message to people who get easily offended by your counsel or from the leadership in preparation to Passover? Thank you.
Read it one more time.
What's the best encouragement message to people who get easily offended by your counsel or from the leadership in preparation to Passover?
Get over it. Just stop worrying about the delivery system. Okay? Look, if Elder Billy were here, he would say this. He says this to a lot of people when he counsels them. When they're having an issue with the way the delivery system gave them the message, he always asks, was what was said correct? Yes. Okay, if the answer is yes, then stop whining and complaining and being super sensitive to how it was delivered. I mean, I don't know what you think when you read your scriptures, but there's an awful lot of not so gently delivered information in there. Yahweh himself does it. Moses does it. Shaul certainly does it. Yeshua does it. He had some scathing things to say. Oh, but you don't have a problem with that because you thought those people deserved it. Harsh, uncomfortable things happen for the same reason that plagues and cursings happen, to get you to wake up, to pay attention. And so realize that the more you don't like it, maybe the more you needed it. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise between your ears. And it takes a knife or a strong blast, like a loud voice, some sharpness, to push through and puncture through that noise. That noise sometimes is so loud in your head, you need somebody loud like me. Because I can be louder than your noise. And if somebody was up here just talking like this, and they're just talking to you, and you won't even hear them over the noise. Okay? You won't hear. It doesn't matter if you like it and the information's good. You still won't be able to hear and receive because the noise is too loud in your head. And I promise you, I can get louder than any noise in your head. None of you have heard me get loud. You think you have. Trust me. Okay? I can get as loud as necessary. There are one or two people on the planet that have heard me because they were so loud I had to be louder. Not a problem. Okay? But it was necessary to shut down the noise and then calm the situation down or whatever needed to be done. So Jed asks a good question. The problem is that the question, I don't want to say that. It's not that it's a good question. He's addressing an important situation, a reality. The reality is this: you're not always going to like the delivery system of the message. I don't know why that's relevant. Well, Rabbi, you'd be getting a lot more people if you could just be more gentle. Nonsense. What value would it be to get more people through gentleness and not telling them straight and what they need, and then they never change, and they never wake up, and it never gets them anywhere. We call that ear tickling. And trust me, when you need it, I could be as gentle as anybody. I know some of you are thinking, well, of course it's important to be gentle. It's one of the fruit of the Ruach. I can be very gentle, very kind, very patient. Just ask Rabbi Tom, Elder Billy, some of the people who counseled. Ashley said, ask her. Okay, ask Shira. Ask some of the people that have counseled, who have heard both sides of it. They've heard it when it needed to be strong, and they've heard it when it needed to be kind and gentle. And usually you get the second one after the first one. Because once I got your attention, then I can then calm it down and bring it down and say, okay, now that I have your attention, we need to work on this and fix this and get this right, and you can do it. But my simple answer is get over it. Why should you have anything to say about how the information is delivered to you? Israel didn't want to be taken to Babylon, or Judah didn't. Israel didn't want to be taken by the Assyrians. All these things didn't want to be happen by them, but this is the way Abba got their attention for the future things that they needed to do. But yet, it's the delivery system. You know, Yeshua had to suffer and die as part of the delivery system so that we could all have a future. Nothing gentle about that. But he knew it was what had to happen. Always ask the question, this is what I guess you could tell them, Jet. Is the information, if you could even receive it, because maybe you're so hurt by the way it's delivered you can't even hear it. Is the information right? Is it true? Is it correct? And if it is, stop worrying about, fussing about, and being upset about the way it was delivered. See, the reason we're having this problem is that we're generationally disconnected from strong adults in our lives. You could talk to some of the people my age and older about how strong their father was or their grandfather was. Oh, my goodness. And then look at some of the fathers today. Oh, my goodness. Okay? Because a lot of you knew you didn't do anything of certain things you just would never do in front of your father. You would never speak a certain way in front of your father. You certainly would never talk back. Some of you had fathers, you know what I'm talking about. You did it once and never again. Because you paid a price immediately. That's not our children today, because we won't do that to them. We're not strong enough with them. And so you're not used to a strong hand. Yahweh says that he will correct you. He will not spare the rod. Like a father loves a son, he's going to chastise you. Is there anything about chastisement that sounds fun, kind, gentle, warm, and fuzzy? But he says that he chastises, he chastens all those that he loves. But you guys hate it when I chastise you. You all want to quit and run and go whatever. I'm not the one chastising you. I'm just a vessel. It's him. Well, no, it can't be, because if he would be so much more gentle and go back to church then, okay? If that's what you want, go back to church. Okay? Go back to church. Because they'll tickle every ear you've got. Go to Olstein's and just be told everything's wonderful and you're walking in favor. Or you could want to grow up. Okay? I think that was enough of that. Janet.
Rabbi, I have a follow-up question of what you're saying. You were talking about how sometimes we don't fix our financial situation, and so do you think part of that could be that there's a poverty mindset, like people were not comfortable making good money, and that maybe a reason?
It's more complex than that. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's more varied than that. Some people have a belief system that is contrary to their desire. They want to have abundance, but they believe that abundance is evil, or they believe that money is evil, or they believe that, because this was put into their brains at some point. Or they have a scarcity, poverty mindset, okay, where they just think that somehow it's blessed to be poor, it's blessed in some way like that. There are others that have a scarcity problem where they freak out, panic, and are always fearful of scarcity. So it's a whole different sort of problem. But the reason why people don't make the effort often is because they have a contradictory belief system that is like an anchor. Okay, I'm coming up with, please don't hold me to this, I haven't done it yet, but I'm coming up with a formula that I'm hoping to show the teenagers next, in 10 days when we start doing the Passover program for the teenagers. And this formula is a formula for success. And part of the formula for success is desire plus or minus a belief, because maybe your belief is an anchor and it's taking away from your getting where you're going, plus or minus the level of effort, plus or minus the level of commitment equals, if it's a high enough number, success or not. So if you counted these things on a scale, I was going to do like 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, and then the total score by the time you add everything up has to be over a certain amount and you'll likely be successful. But think about it. You want to be able to pay all your bills comfortably and have extra on the side. That's a desire. Now, what if you only desire that kind of, sort of, maybe? All right, so maybe that desire on a scale of 1 to 100 is like a 40. Well, that's not a lot of desire. And what if you have a belief that I'm okay, I don't really need, money's the root of evil. If I go ahead and get some, then you know what? This is the best one. I'll lose my benefits from the government. You should want to lose your benefits from the government. Okay? Why do you want that? What a horrible trap that is. Because then you'll never have more than you have. And you'll never have enough, because the government certainly isn't going to give you enough. Why wouldn't you want to figure out a way not to have that? Not to need that? I don't have any idea what I'm going to get for Social Security in whatever number of years and that starts. I am fully committed to not need any of it. Okay? That should be the thing. I mean, because I know people who are absolutely so like pit bulls about protecting that benefit. This is a self-defeating mindset. If you can, look, I know enough people on disability and other things like that. It's only $700 or $800 a month. It's not, you can't live well on that. Okay, you can make $10 an hour, makes you $400 a week if you work full time. That's $1,600 a month. It's almost double, more than double. After taxes, it's probably close to double what you're getting from the government. That's not even getting paid very much. It's $10 an hour. How hard is it to get a $10 an hour job? Any one of you can walk out right now and get a $10 an hour job, no problem. Okay? I'm not telling you to go out and get a $30 an hour job or $40. I'm saying just a $10 an hour job will pay you double what you're making from disability. That's unbelievable. So, the thing that Janet was asking is you have to understand that if you want something bad enough and you have beliefs that are consistent with what you want in terms of that, A, it's right to want it, B, you can have it and get it, then you add to that effort and commitment, you're going to get it. But that's the whole thing about going into the kingdom, isn't it? You have to want it bad enough. You got to believe you can get there. You got to commit to do the work. You have to do the work. And then you end up in the kingdom. And so that formula plays through. I have to just figure out a way to make it mathematically make sense so that you can plug in numbers and things so you can really see how it adds up. Because I just got this idea sleeping last night. Woke me up, had the thought, wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Because it's one of those things where if anything in the equation is off, it doesn't work, which is what Janet was asking about. if their belief is a belief that is a negative towards where they're wanting to head. So financial abundance, and they have a belief that actually abundance is no good, abundance is evil, abundance, because they only knew people that were wealthy that did evil things, or their father or mother always told them money was evil, money was bad. That's a hard mindset to overcome. By the way, almost everybody in your scriptures who's mentioned in any kind of length was very wealthy. And they all worked for it and earned it. Abraham, wealthy. Isaac, Jacob, wealthy. Okay? Yeshua, wealthy. There was enough money in the money purse that, good old Judas was stealing out of it and it still didn't matter. And there was enough that he could steal out of it and figure nobody'd even notice there was so much there. I mean, people did well and they worked and earned it. So wealth and abundance is what he desires for you, but you have to work for it. But if you've got a mindset or a belief system that is contrary to that, it's like it cancels each other out. I want it, but it's bad. Well, then you can't have it. I want it, but it's good for me to have it. Okay, now you're heading in the right direction. But I'm too lazy to do anything about it. Okay, now you're not going to get anywhere. And I'm not really that committed to do it. All right? Look, I'm not bragging when I talk about my weight loss, all right? I'm wearing a shirt today tucked in. I couldn't do that before. And I'm saying this because it took me wanting to lose the weight, believing that I could do it, committing to do it, and making the effort to do it. And guess what? I did it. You can do that with anything. You can have that kind of result in anything. Financial, physical, health, relationships. Look, all these people out there with this terrible marriages, a lot of those marriages are fixable if you put the effort in, but nobody wants to put the effort in. Because it's hard and it's work. Easier just to quit and just be frustrated and blame the other person. Every marriage that's lasted, whatever it's lasted, if it's a marriage, there's been struggles. And it's a lot of work. Every relationship, everything you desire is going to take effort and work. If you want something easier than that, go find a different system. The system that our Creator put into play, effort, work. Desire, effort, work. Belief. Okay? A desire is birthed in your head. You believe you can have it. You believe it's appropriate. You put in the effort. You commit to it. Guess what? You're going to get it. It's not that complicated. Problem is, if any one of those items is a negative instead of a plus, it cancels out all the stuff that's on the other side, or at least makes it that much harder to do. And so let's understand that, Okay, let's say 100% in these 4 items. A 400 as a score would be absolute, definite, guaranteed. What's the likelihood, though, if you have your desire and your belief and your effort and your commitment add up to only about 100, 4 items? What's the likelihood that's going to happen? Probably not very good. That's like a 25 in each one of them out of 100. And a perfect score is 400. And how far down below 400 does it get to the B where you really don't get anywhere? Probably not very far. You need to get those numbers way up to get there. And you may have one of those numbers at 100, but what if one of those numbers is actually very low? Well, what if it's a negative? Now you're never going to get there. And so maybe that formula will work for you. Maybe it's an idea. Okay, that'll work for you. Okay? And so, I'm glad I can stand here, and those looking at me, look, we were playing one of the older teachings on the screen in our lobby here, and Marlene called me in just to see the big fat me in front of the camera. She goes, Rabbi, look at you. I said, shut up. No, I said, yeah, I'm glad that I've made that effort, and I'm going to stay and commit to keeping it that way, and I'm not done yet. Okay? But the thing is, I do this as a physical metaphor for you. All right? And if your commitment level's high enough and your effort is high enough, it doesn't have to take forever. I did this in a couple of months. Very short. Now, you don't have to do it that quickly, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, but the more you want it, the more you commit, the more you put into it, the faster things happen. Okay? So look, let me use me as a metaphor. I wanted to lose weight, okay? And I had no doubt that I could do it. All right, so there's a big number in wanting it. I really wanted it. And I've wanted it in the past, but I didn't want it that bad. But I really wanted it this time. And I had complete confidence that I could do it. I knew how to do it, what to do. I just had to do it. And I committed to do it in a time frame, and I made the effort. What's there not to succeed then? Because some of you say, well, I've tried and I failed and I tried. Well, one of your numbers was off. Take the 4 things, one of your numbers was out of whack. It's the only reason why you didn't do it. Does that make sense? Yep. Desire, belief, commitment, and effort. One of those 4 was out of whack, and that's why you didn't get there. Or maybe several of them were not as high as they needed to be. Because some of you are thinking, I'm so tired of, and it could be being heavy, being broke, being sick, being unhealthy, whatever it is, right? Being in a bad relationship. So your desire is getting really high for something better, but are you willing to do the other 3 things? Do you believe you can fix it and make it better? Do you believe that you can put in the commitment and the level of effort that'll make it happen? Because you may really want it, but there's 3 other pieces to that puzzle, to that formula. All right, enough personal development for the day. But realize this is the same thing with getting into the kingdom. You're not going to get in unless those 4 things are there. You have to believe that you can get there. You have to desire it. And then you have to make the effort, and you have to be committed. It's going to take all 4 of those things. That's why I tell you this every Rosh Chodesh. I said, he didn't call you so you would fail. He didn't call you to frustrate you and to embarrass you that you can't do it. You can do it. But the question is, will you do it? That's all up to you. It's all in your hands. All right, Janet, see what you started?
Rabbi, this is so good. It's just great. Rabbi, when you were talking about complaining, blaming, and you were saying, okay, you were talking about discharges. So I have a question about the discharge, because it talks about 2 different discharge for men, right? So it says discharge and then it says semen. So what are we talking about with the first one?
Well, I mean, look, I think when it comes to things, when it says discharges, we're talking about anything that could be, let's say you have some sort of a thing on your skin that busts, and it has pus coming out of it. Some sort of a discharge that way is going to make you unclean. So you could have a blister. You can have some other thing that then ends up oozing something out, okay? Obviously, the semen discharge, you know what that is, and the woman's cycle, you know what that is. But for both of them, other things could be discharges. Women have other discharges other times of the month. It's not their monthly time. And men have other discharges, that happen at times too. There's things that he's simply saying, when stuff like that's happening, you need to wash. You gotta remember, they didn't bathe and shower like we do. They didn't have those things available. So they're telling you, these are things that, whether you would have normally wanted to, do some washing or not, you need to do it. I mean, I'm sure that they did wash occasionally, however often they did, but these were now required times to bathe and wash your clothes. Because believe it or not, they didn't do that all the time. Because it wasn't like they had, laundromats or laundry machines in their huts, in their houses or whatever, or in their tents when they were traveling, and they certainly didn't have showers and baths. And so hygienically, they needed to do these things when these things were going on. All right, back to you, Grayson.
From Rocky Mosley, Mark 7, verses 20 through 21, does this connect to Leviticus 14?
Only from what I said it does. Okay, because what it talks about in Mark 7, this is where it says it's not what goes in but what comes out that defiles a man. That's when I'm using the metaphor the same way Yeshua did here. That's the discharge that defiles you, right? All right, so Yeshua's using the same metaphor I did, or I'm using the same one he did, okay? And I wasn't even thinking about it here in Mark 7, so I like that you found that and brought that up, Rocky. But chapter 14 is talking about the literal physical things. I chose to take it on another direction to give you a more full, what do we call it? The fullness of the intent. Just like when we talk about the spirit of the law, we talk about like when Yeshua said, oh yeah, it's all well and good that you didn't commit adultery, but you wanted to, so that was bad enough. Even though the letter of the law says, well, as long as you didn't actually physically commit adultery, you're good. And he's saying no. And so here you don't physically have a discharge, but you have this other junk that comes out of your mouth. And look what he talks about. He talks about evil reasonings and adulteries and whorings and murders and thefts and greedy desires and wickedness and deceit and indecency and the evil eye and blasphemy and pride and foolishness. All these things that come out of our mouth. But you know what? I added to that whining, complaining, and griping and moaning and groaning over all these things that, you know what? In life, either let it go or fix it. Why are you complaining about it and whining about it? Because you want other people to be upset about it with you. I mean, there's no other reason to do it. If it's fixable, fix it. If it's not fixable by you but fixable by somebody else, go to them and ask them to fix it. If it's not fixable or doesn't need to be fixed, let it go. Why do you let these things just bother you for so long? And I'm not talking about a momentary thing. Like, for example, I'm trying to log into something, I can't get my password to work, and I get upset. But you know what? I'm not upset 10 minutes later. I'm not upset the next day or later that afternoon. Some of you, though, will still be talking about whatever happened, this morning. You'll be talking about it for a week. If it happened in the morning on one day, you'll still be getting mileage out of it, telling everybody you can think of about this awful thing that irritated you that happened in your life, that you can't fix or don't want to fix or whatever it is. It's absolutely not just non-productive, it's negatively productive. It's counterproductive. And so it's an unclean discharge. All right? Okay. Next, go ahead.
From Allison Watson, are we supposed to sleep separate from our husband when there is a discharge?
All right. Again, these rules are for when there was a temple or when there will be a temple. Okay? Because the rules had to do with if the discharge touched you, which is why, they didn't have the hygienic products we have today for women. So a woman sitting on something could have gotten some of that happening on whatever they sat on, much more easily than today. Okay, because today you have your products, plus you have different layers of clothing and everything. The likelihood of it getting on whatever you're sitting on is almost zero, right? But back then, that wasn't necessarily the case. And so this is why the rules were to stay separated and to not sit on places and do different things so that there would be no chance for you to come into contact and then be unclean unknowingly and then try to go and do things at the temple in an unclean state. And so, no, you do not need to do these things today. They're not done away with. They're just not applicable because the reason for them doesn't exist at the moment, which is the temple. All right? So being in a state of tameh affects nothing today. It will affect something eventually. So it's good that you know these things, but it doesn't affect anything today. Okay? All right.
Comment from MTOI Philippine Jet. Rabbi, I think you're going to need a new set of shirts and pants. Love you, and I am so proud of you, my rabbi. Keep it up. As well as a lot of other people on the live stream are all proud of you, and that they can see your seats. All the better.
All right, so Jet, this is a new shirt, and it's a large instead of an extra large. And these are also smaller pants. I went from a 36 down to 34. So there you go. All right? They're not new because I was 34 once before in my life and kept them and was able to bring them out of the mothballs and then put them back on. So, I'm trying to not do that with the 36s, though. I think I want to throw them out until I don't want to ever get back to that size, okay? I'm glad I kept the smaller ones. I'm not sure I want to keep the bigger ones, okay? As a way to be like, well, I've got bigger ones, it's okay. No. I made the journey up. I'm making the journey back down. I'm not going back up. All right? Okay. Go ahead.
Question from Jersey Girl regarding the 4 variables for goals. How can one achieve a goal after years of failure and trying, and now their belief of being able to do it is crushed? How can belief in their ability be rebuilt?
All right, so I have a very simple answer, but it's not going to help you so much. All right? The simple answer is everything that goes on inside your head is a choice. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Yesterday was yesterday. Yesterday does not equal today, does not equal tomorrow. Tony Robbins, one of the great teachers out there, says, and a lot of other teachers say the same thing, which is you have to embrace the reality that the past does not have to equal the future. It can if you keep living in the past. It doesn't have to. Every day you can choose to make different decisions, and those decisions will take you to different places. So let me give you this nugget of information, okay? Everything in your life right now that you experience, where you are, in other words, where you are financially, physically, relationship, everything, is the result of the choices you made in the past up to this moment. In other words, every time you make choices, there's a destination it's taking you to. You may not be aware of it. You're not thinking that when you're sitting down, eating all that ice cream and pizza and cake and donuts and whatever, that the destination is fat, okay, and out of shape and sick. I'm just being blunt. You're just thinking, I like this. This is great. I'll have 3 more. I've done all that. But what you're doing has a destination. The way you treat people in relationships will lead to a certain level of quality of that relationship. The way you act financially will lead to where you are financially. So you are, this is important because there's 2 steps to this. Number 1, you are exactly where every choice you've made has brought you. The beautiful thing is you can make different choices and be somewhere else. You just have to make different choices. So all you need to believe is that you can make different choices. You don't have to believe that you can end up somewhere else. You don't have to believe any of that stuff because you're so stuck in that other mindset that's hard to do. But can you believe you can make a different choice? Can you believe you can eat differently? Can you believe you can behave differently in a relationship? Can you believe you can get a different job? Can you believe you can spend less or whatever it is? You have to believe you can make different choices. Then go back to the desire to make the different choice, the effort and the commitment to make the different choices over time, not instantaneously, unfortunately, or very fortunately, because you make dumb decisions, you don't want dumb results right away. But the same consistent pattern over time will take you to someplace different. Because you are where years of decisions has brought you, not 5 minutes of decisions. Okay? So you need to commit to make new decisions, new choices. Well, I don't know how to do that. Well, you know what? Then how about reading some books on how to do it? Watching some videos? Look, you think, a lot of you listening to me going, wow, he's just such a professional speaker and he knows all this stuff. Do you know why I know all this stuff? Because I've been listening to it, reading it, and going to the seminars and all of the other stuff since I was 14 years old or so. I can't remember exactly, but it was 14, 15. Okay? I have been reading, listening to, and watching, and going live to events for 59 almost, so 44, 45 years. And if you've not done this ever, well, guess what? You need to start. And you know what else? You've got such an advantage that I did not have. 2 advantages, really. One is a lot more of it's available now than when I was 14, 15. a lot more teachers, a lot more speakers, a lot more good materials. And because of things like the internet, people have posted almost all of it free. Stuff I had to pay hundreds of dollars for, you can get for free. On YouTube, in some sort of PDF form, if you want to download a free PDF of a book, you can get these things cheaply or free that I had to pay a lot of money for. And so much more than I had available to me back then. Okay? I mean, think about it. A guy like Tony Robbins, who I started listening to back in the 80s, well, that's 40 years ago. Almost, okay? In the 80s. Yeah. And so just think about how much more he's produced since I first started listening to him. And that's just one teacher. How about all the other teachers that weren't even existing as teachers that are now fabulous at this stuff? And I can name a few. And they didn't exist as teachers back then, because a lot of them aren't even 40 years old themselves. They weren't even born yet when I started listening to this stuff. Okay? And so, but you have to make a decision. Okay, when I start teaching this to the teenagers, I'm going to teach it to you also. Self-education is the key to everything. You have to be willing and desiring and committed to continually educating yourself in the areas of life that you want to be successful in. The school system that the government gave you was useless, mostly, okay? Maybe you learned how to read and do some basic math and write, and that's fine. Maybe you needed some of those classes to get a degree in something, that's fine, but most of you didn't. Most of you just went through that system and came out no different than when you went in, except with some basic skills. The really important things you need in life, you have to go and get for yourself. You have to read. A lot of people don't read anymore. I have a hard time sitting still to read. So you know what I found? There's some great things out there like Audible where I can listen to books. And I can do 15 things at the same time I'm listening because I'm too ADD to sit still. And I can listen to books. And I listen to books every day. I watch, listen, or read something every day for a chunk of my day that will positively impact where I'm going or where I'm trying to go. That includes scripture, teachings, personal development, physical health, relationships, all of it. So let that be an example to you. I do this every day for 45 years. All right? What do you think is going to be the result of that? And some of you are thinking, well, I'm too old now. No, you're not. I got results almost immediately back when I was 15 and 16 doing this. It doesn't take that long to start getting results. Being that I've been doing it for 45 years, I can speak it forward and backward and inside out as an expert because I've studied it and dealt with it for so long. Longer than, actually better than and longer than I know the scriptures. And you guys are all impressed at how I know the scriptures. I know this stuff even better than that. I've been doing it longer. And Yahweh knew one day the two would come together. Because the body is so screwed up because all it does is study scripture and doesn't understand the rest of it. And by the way, there are plenty of scriptures, and especially in the Proverbs, that teach you everything I'm telling you anyway. It's not like it's not in there. I mean, what I just told you about spewing out these things, Mark 7 has that. There's so much of this. But are you going to make the effort? Well, I don't like to read. So what? I don't like to read either. Well, I don't have time for this. I have less time than you. And you're thinking, well, that's kind of cocky to say that. Well, no, I work more hours than you, I promise you. Maybe there's one or two people listening that I'm not more, but most of you don't work the hours I work. Okay? I sleep 7 hours a day, basically. So 7 times 7 is 49 hours. Out of 168 hours, I'm working everything but the 49, pretty much. By working, I mean I'm either educating myself or I'm working. So give it at least 100 hours a week. So don't tell me you don't have time for this. okay? I get here most days by 9 or 10, and I leave after everybody's done. And I still manage to do all these things. I'm in the car, I'm playing a book I'm listening to. I'm doing some work that doesn't require me to be too focused on the work itself, and I'm playing some sort of instructional development thing on YouTube or whatever it is on the screen while I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I'm working out, I'm listening to something. I did a mile on the treadmill yesterday just to get my cardio up a little bit. And guess what? For that 20, 30 minutes, whatever it was, 20 minutes, I was listening to something. Be efficient. All right, next.
Question from Nancy Hose. But which of these teachers you are speaking of actually use Scripture as the basis of self-improvement philosophy?
All of them. They just don't quote it. But it's at the root of all of it. All right, whoever wrote that, I'm gonna hit you pretty hard right now. Don't get mad. Don't take it wrong. You just threw up a whiny excuse. Well, which one of them is putting it from Scripture? Because it has all of it. Stop saying that. You know, the Scripture's only this many pages, 66 books, telling you mostly the history of the people from creation through to Yeshua. And there's a lot more in life that other people have been given the talents to teach you about. But all of it is grounded in here. But don't sound like, well, I'm only going to go to the one that's going to just teach out of the book. Well, then, good luck. Oh, you know what? Better than that. Listen to me. I'm teaching you all of that from the book. Now, I could be wrong, and that person could be not saying it with that tone. That's the tone I heard, because I know a lot of you will say that. Oh, well, that person's not teaching out of the Bible, so what do I want to listen to them for? Truth is truth. How much chemistry and physics and biology is in your Bible? Very little. But there's still truth there, isn't it? You know, if you take 2 hydrogens and an oxygen, what do you get? Is that in your book anywhere? The chemistry of that? No. Okay, so 2 hydrogens and an oxygen makes water. That's true. We know that, and we have other people that can teach us that, and they don't quote a scripture to teach us that. So nothing of use can come outside of your scriptures? Even though these principles, I promise you, are all there. They're all there. And one of these days, I know I've been promising this, but I think we're going to go through. As soon as I get through certain other teachings here, we're going to go from Genesis 1 and look at every person and see their example of what they understood in terms of these things that I'm talking about. Their personal development, their self-actualization, their being true to themselves or not, the way they handled situations and relationships and their goals and their target that they were aiming at, etc. And we'll see why they were successful and why they weren't. We'll see the formula play out: desire, belief, commitment, and effort. We'll see that play out with all of these people. And we'll see where it worked and where it didn't work. Okay? Look, I'm sorry if I come across strong. I don't want you to have that little stupid, I'm saying that seriously, voice scream in your head reasons why you can't or shouldn't do this. It's going to keep you where you are. And unless you like where you are, you need to shut that voice down. Okay? All right? Because that voice is the voice of failure. If you listen to that voice, that's where you'll be. All right? Don't listen to that voice. I told you, that's an ugly discharge. That whiny excuse, whatever kind of thing. I'll throw you another nugget here. Just a tip for when you look at stuff. Stop looking at things from the holistic point of view. In other words, well, I don't want to listen to that teaching or that thing unless every bit of it's going to benefit me. No, you should listen if you can get one idea out of it that's useful. If you get 2, wow. 4 or 5, amazing. I don't care what I spent if I got one potentially life-affecting and life-enhancing and life-changing thought or idea or distinction, it was worth every penny. Well, I shouldn't say that. If I applied it, it would be worth every penny. So when I read something or listen, I'm hoping that I will find one, just one, valuable tidbit, one little nugget, one little pearl. I can hate the whole rest of it or think it's off track or some other thing, but get that one. You know what else I could tell you? I'm not telling you to do this. You could listen to any Sunday preacher and find usually one thing that was useful in there, which is why people like listening to those guys, because they may say just one thing that is useful. It may not be scripturally based, but it may still be useful for whatever they're going to tell you to do. It's a matter of what you're listening for. So I'm not telling you to go do that. I'm just saying is you can go through a whole lot of, look, when you go to the store, and let's say you're going to buy pasta. I'll pick something that most people eat pasta to some degree. I could have said cereal aisle. I usually like to say the cereal aisle. And there's like 47 different cereals on the cereal aisle. But you probably only like 4 or 5 of them, maybe. What do you do with the other 47 of them? You ignore them. You don't get all mad that they're there. You don't get angry that they're all there on the shelf. You go and look for the 3 or 1 or 2 that you like, and you go and you pick it off the shelf, and you're happy. Now, if it's not there, then you can get frustrated because you didn't get anything out of going down the aisle because it didn't have what you wanted. Okay? And then instead of getting upset, you just go to a different store. So if I have a book I'm reading and it doesn't have anything in it, I just say, oh, well, I'll get another book. That one didn't have anything for me. So just get another one. Okay, Denise?
Touching on what the last 2, but the previous one as well, watching your teachings, like the fear of Yahweh, it also helps, because I always struggled with not being able to do a lot of things, like the choices I made didn't end up very well. And in learning that I don't always necessarily have to trust in myself, but trust in Father Yahweh, which it goes with the belief part of your, I forgot what you called it, but the steps in believing, if you're trusting in Father Yahweh, that when you get up to do the work, He will make a way. All things work for the glory of His good. So if you're trusting in Him and not putting faith in your own ability, because you will fall short, the Word says so, that it will work out. It's just getting up and doing the work. And I know that having a fear that you're gonna mess up, or it's not gonna work out, or you have to deal with something has been a big struggle. But if you keep going and keep trying, Father Yahweh will make a way.
Amen. 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 Look, I'm hoping, actually, I thought about it and I mentioned this, I think, on Saturday. I really think it may be useful to have a personal development for the body type of thing, an MTOI personal development boot camp during maybe Sukkot. And for 7 days, I'm going to kick you in the rear, in the teeth, wherever you need to be kicked and encouraged and prodded and cheered on and, inspired and whatever else needs to happen for you to make the changes in your life that are part of you becoming Him. All right? See, I know some of you are thinking like the person maybe who said, well, where's the scriptural verses for all of this stuff? You know what? It's really hard. I think we'll all agree here. It's really hard to focus on becoming Him when you're so lousy at being you. I'm going to say that again. It's really hard to get past the distraction of the struggle you have being you to try to become Him. If you can get you under control, you may actually then be able to start to become Him. How are you going to become Him when you're not even good at being you? I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. But you need to figure that out, because all of that noise, you know what? How is it that you can focus on the transformation spiritually when all your physical stuff is out of whack? Your health is no good, your relationships are no good, your finances are no good. All of these things are always distracting you and irritating you and frustrating you. And how can you focus vertically? That's the biggest noise. It's worse than the noise in your head. Actually, that's probably what's causing the noise in your head, is all those things in your life that aren't right. You know, you want to become him. Let's become a better version of you. A version of you that you feel good about, that you can love, that you can be proud of. And then take that to the next level. Because a lot of you are like, I'm tired of being me. I just want to be him. Whoa. It's a step process. You got to become a great you before you can become him. Okay? You need to become a great you before you can transform into him. You can't go from garbage, whatever you might think where you're struggling, to this amazing without any steps in between. Look at all the people that we hold up as heroes in scriptures. They're all great men and women. And they didn't just start out born that way. They made choices and decisions and became great men and women who then, we know, became very much like him. Does it make sense? All right? So that's all scriptural. It's all scriptural. So I'm going to try to think about if I can put this program together between now and September, if we can maybe do something, because I think that may be the thing to do. I'm almost doing a small version of it for the Gadol kids, for the teenagers at Passover. Although the more I'm putting the program together, the more frustrated I'm getting that I don't have enough time. I only have them for 14 hours. That sounds like a lot of time, but it's not. Okay? And actually, let's see, 6 of those hours, I don't even have them. I've got facilitators hopefully doing what I need them to do during those other 6 hours. I only have them for 8, personally. So that's barely enough to do anything. So I'm trying to figure out how to not try to overextend myself and keep it more targeted and offer less, or focus on less variety of things and just really focus on them more strongly. So I know I've told everybody some of the things we may be doing in that class. We may not be doing all of them. I may be just doing some of them more intensely and more thoroughly. I haven't really worked that out yet. And I need to do it soon because 10 days from now we start. So I'm still working on that program. And some of the other guys who are going to help in the teaching are like, yeah, Rabbi, you need to tell us what we're doing. As soon as I know, you'll know too, okay? Let's put it that way. All right, Grayson. Do we still have an audience?
Yes. So the person was asking a question more so for just making sure that they had good discernment outside of, obviously, teachers like yourself. And that is all for the live stream. And I have a quick question in regards to what...
So what was the... I didn't understand that. Was that a question or a comment? Something about discernment with other teachers?
The person was asking the question, an honest question to help in discerning who is the safest person aside from you in terms of personal development. That's the
clarity of the question from before. Mm-hmm. Well, good. But just realize, even though that attack that I gave wasn't really for you, it was probably for some of the people out here. Okay? So I'm glad that person hopefully didn't take it personally, but there are people that will start to use anything and everything as an excuse not to do what I told them to do. Okay. Now, what's your comment?
So in regards to what you said about like the viling spewing from your lips when you're deciding to like act in that way, that's apart from Yahweh. So in the same sense of when we are acting according to Yah's will and his teaching and his instructions, we consider that we're being fed by the word of Yahweh. So would it be appropriate to have the same view that when we're not acting out of that we're then acting out of the things that come out of ourselves in the same way of these vile discharging that's what we're choosing to feed ourselves with?
Sure, because it's what goes in comes out, yes.
Okay.
Right? Garbage in, garbage out, good stuff in, good stuff out, right? Okay?
And I believe that is all for the live stream.
Okay, awesome. And by the way, and I want to say this with, because we'll wrap it up here almost, well, Shira's going to come up, but let me just say this way. And I mean this with absolute humility, okay? Because you need to know that I'm not saying this in any other way. I am able to give you for free and distill in the context of Torah and Yahweh and Yeshua what all of those other teachers, I mean, I could have been them. Actually, that was my dream when I was 15, was to be one of those guys. Okay? But how much better to be able to do it in the context of Torah observant Israel? okay? And so all it's going to take, though, and Grayson's just recently experienced this, is to go and take one of these guys' courses, do one of their seminars, and then compare what you're hearing there to what you hear from me. And you'll see I'm offering you the same level at least. Okay? Some people are saying better. And
You are better.
Again, I appreciate that, but it's because I've been trained to do this, knowing at that age I could do this, and now Abba's given me an opportunity to do it in the right framework of the context of Yeshua and Yahweh and Torah. Okay? So in case you're wondering, well, Rabbi, what do you actually know about this? Go listen and you'll realize I'm saying exactly what they're saying. I'm just distilling it in a package that's, every one of them says almost the same thing. They just distill it in a package that may work better for you than the other person's way of packaging it. Essentially, it's the same stuff. I don't hear at this point anything that I've not heard before. What I do hear is different ways of packaging it that I now have in my toolbox, that if I'm trying to reach somebody, whoever it is I'm talking to, and it's not really getting there, I can try another approach or another approach, all saying the same thing, but now I have dozens of ways to get that point across. Because I'll be listening to Brendan Bouchard, and he has a way to say the same thing. I'll be listening to Dean Grazioso, and he'd have another way to do it. I'd listen to Tony Robbins, he has another way. Zig Ziglar has another way. Jim Rohn has another way. Les Brown has another way. Brian Tracy has another way. I can keep going on. And they're all saying the same thing. Okay? But which way works for you? That's why you need to listen to them all. Because one of them is going to say the exact same thing you've heard many times, but all of a sudden it's going to click because of the way they said it or because of the timing of you being ready. One of those two or both. All right? All right, Shira.
Thank you, Rabbi. After all these years that I've been welcoming and thankful for your slaps and kicks and shots and it's been wonderful to come into a place where I'm at home in my own skin. And I am praising Father for that. The one comment I'd like to make is, through all this, you and the people in the Bible who wrote those things, you all have an anointing of leadership. You have a position from Yahweh you have the authority to evaluate where the body is and to make those corrections. And I had to come to a place of discernment where I realized that's above my pay grade. I don't have the authority to evaluate what's wrong with the body. I don't have the authority to go around and say, well, we're so immature and we're so, lacking in this. My calling, I have a passion for exhorting, for lifting up the hands that hang down and strengthening the weak knees, and to be able to say, love believes all things, love hopes all things, love endures all things. And that's my job. And if that could be all of our job, and I know many of you who feel that the way I do, that let's something good be said. Let something good be said. Let there be a balm in Gilead so that we can encourage one another and say, yes, Rabbi's right, you can do this. And to say, we're being taken somewhere by the Almighty Yahweh. Set your goals on where we're all coming together, and that He is going to do it, no matter what it looks like. And praise Abba for the privilege to be part of it.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. I'm gonna give you an analogy, okay? You may never have experienced this, but some of you probably have experienced this. If you've ever either watched or been coached, okay, in any kind of, whether it's music or a physical endeavor, the coaches are not always very gentle. Okay? When I used to be a personal trainer years ago and I was helping somebody to work out, I had to get pretty strong with them that they, one more, come on, you can do it. What I mean, and that got them to push harder. It wasn't like, oh yeah, come on, try one more. No, okay? My voice cracked a whip to get more out of them. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with you guys too, is to get you to get more out of you. To have that voice smacking at you and kicking you and prodding you forward. Okay? And that's what you always hear in any athletics or anything with this, that teacher is going to be hard on you. I did this in music too. Boy, if you wanted to be great at something, that coach, teacher in music is going to be hard on you about every note, everything that's not perfect. But only if you want to be perfect. The student that doesn't want to, the teacher isn't going to try. But, my daughter and I had a little challenge with that in the beginning because I was so hard on her at times. And the reason I was so hard on her is because I know she could do more. I knew how great she wanted to be and the talent, the immense talent that she has. At the beginning, though, she thought I was being very hard on her. But if she never cared about it and didn't want to be great, I wouldn't have been so hard on her. But this is what you have to understand. Abba's hard on Israel. I mean, he is very hard on Israel because he wants them to succeed and be great. And I want you guys to be there too. And so I'm going to scream at you a little bit. But that screaming isn't screaming at you. It's screaming to get you, like as a prod forward, to punch through all that noise. Because as soon as you start hearing me, all of a sudden the noise is like, oh, yeah, whatever, I don't like this guy. He's just about, and then that noise has to get blasted through so that you can actually receive, So think about that sort of coaching thing, okay? I mean, I taught some classes, some workout classes, and I'll tell you what, I was yelling at those people in the class because I wanted them to go more and push harder and do more. You know why I work as hard as I do? Because if I'm leading and you're following me, I always told this now this is not good math, okay? So realize this is not proper math. But if I want to get 100% out of you, I got to give 150. There's no such thing as 150%. But you understand what I'm saying? If I only give 100%, you're going to only do 80 or 70. I got to push myself harder to get more out of you if you're following me, if I'm leading. Think about your children, anybody that's looking up at you. How hard are you setting that example? How hard are you pushing? What's your effort level? Because people are only going to do a percentage of what you do. They're not going to even get up to your level. So if your level is very low, where are they going to end up? You got to set that bar high. And so if I was up there instructing people, doing some sort of a workout thing that I'm leading them in, and I'm just kind of low energy and barely doing whatever it is, what are they going to do? But if I'm exploding, in the room with all this energy and just bursting at it and giving them that vocal encouragement and just, it's lifting them up. It's lifting them up to that place. And that's all I'm trying to do with you guys, is lift you out of this below mud and quicksand and clay that's got a hold of you and lift you out of that so you can soar, so you can fly. Okay? So we could be like the eagles up there, okay? All right, Ashley.
Thank you, Rabbi, for taking me at the last minute. I just want to say, with public speaking and with everything you do, you're the only person that I know of that we can just call any day or any time or any night and just go, hey, question. Of course, if it's urgent, any day, any time, any night. But question, what should I do? No other life coach or spiritual coach, none out there will do that free of charge. None. So I want to say thank you. And everything you've done and everything you say, there's truth to it, and I wish people, and I need to come down off my high horse when I say this, like, how bad do you want it? Because I'm not the person to say it. But it's like, if you guys knew the story of where I started and where I began and how I grew up and where I am now, you guys would be like, whoa. You know the story, and it's beautiful that you were willing to take the time and the energy and all those fights that we've had, not fights, but the verbal altercations. Oh, there's been a few.
All right, let me clarify so that people can understand. She came from wherever she came from, and it was a really a hard place to come from. But every now and then, sometimes more every than less, she gets into a defeated place based on where the past was. And sometimes I have to get really strong to punch through that noise verbally, and then we can move forward again. And that's what she's talking about, because then she'll be like, oh, but. I'm like, no, let's stop that. Let's not go there. That was true then. It isn't true now, and let's move forward. And so that's where we get this little back and forth. But I want you to understand what that actually looked like. It looks like when she's regressing back to that place, a mindset from before that she's been growing out of, and I've got to say, no, don't go there. Come back. We're here now. We're going that way. We're not going back. And that's not always pleasant, because sometimes you're so quickly back and triggered into that defeated, abandoned, worthless, whatever place you may go to, and it's not easy for me to then pull you out of that place and just literally yank you out of that space.
Yeah, a lot of times when I'm in the fire, you're willing to throw your hand in, pull me out. It's like a phoenix, and it's beautiful. I hope everyone gets the at least small advantage that I've had, because it's almost overbearing how much a blessing it is, in a great way.
Okay, you mean overwhelming, not overbearing, but okay.
Yes, thank you. I hate English.
All right. Some people think I'm overbearing, but it's overwhelming the blessing. Okay. Look, if you would only talk to those of you that don't actually make the effort, if you would only talk to the people that do counsel with me on a regular basis and get their, testimony, not like all the details of what they talked about, just their testimony about what it's like. And yes, I'm everything you're afraid I'm going to be, but I'm also all the things you have no idea I'm going to be. Well, I'm afraid you're going to yell at me. I might. You might need it. But I'm also may surprise you how kind and gentle and loving and patient I am with you. Believe it or not, I can be the most patient person you've ever met. You wouldn't know it from what I sound like up here. I get Billy all the time sitting through the counselings, and someone will leave the room after I finish counseling. He looks at me, he's like, man, the patience is incredible. Okay? Because I can be whatever is needed for that, because it's for you. Now, for myself, when I'm struggling with myself, I have a patience problem. But when you need somebody to be patient with you, I can do that. That's part of the anointing. And if you need kindness, and if you need gentleness, it's all there. Okay? Just like when I'm saying that, I tone my voice down, I slow it down, and make it softer for you so that you can feel what I'm saying and hear the words match. Because you're not going to see here when I say, I can be kind, I can be gentle. See, that's not going to work. But if I say, look, I can be kind and gentle. See, when it's not congruent, you're not going to believe it, are you? And so you need that congruence there. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Hope that was good for you tonight. I've said this before, and this is not about, don't get the wrong impression like it's about money or anything. I wish you had to pay for what I gave you, because you would value it more. Even if you didn't pay me, just that it would cost you. See, that's part of why these guys charge so much for some of the things that you go to, because then you'll value what you get and not just, toss it to the side as something that was just information you don't use. We don't tend to value all those things we get for free. And I give you all this stuff free, and I think that a lot of you take it for granted and don't value it enough. If you paid, and let me tell you, what I give you, what these guys would charge, okay, it would be a lot of money. And for the private consultations with these guys, it's thousands of dollars for an hour, okay? And I don't want to charge you anything. I just want you to value it as if it was costing you that you're getting that kind of value. Because I'm giving you everything literally you need to do all these things that you want to do. Everything. if you just would embrace it and put in the effort, make the commitment, believe you can get there, okay, and desire it. That's the formula. Just do those 4 things. All right, let's get a guy to raise their hand. Who wants to close this up? All right, let's see. Grayson, why don't you have us close up? You got a mic all the way in the back there. Go ahead and close this.
Abba, Father, thank you for allowing us to gather tonight to study your word, and thank you for giving us a teacher to help connect us to it. Please allow us to take what we've learned tonight and to truly apply it into our life so that we can continue to grow and to stop being who we are, but so that we can become who you are. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen. Amen. I think we can probably fit all of you guys up here who want to come. So why don't we come up here and wave to them? If you want to come on up, just watch out. Brianna, your ukulele's out here, so. All right, as soon as everybody gets on up here, we want all of you out there online to know that we're aware that you're there, that you follow, and you are a part of the congregation, you participate. And so we value you, we appreciate you, and we want to express that here as we say goodbye. So it's going to wait for everybody that wants to get here to get here. All right, John, do you have everybody on the camera there? Okay, good. All right. So on 3, we're going to wish everybody out there a Laila Tov, which is a good night, a Shavua Tov, which is a good week, and then we're going to tell them that we love them. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Laila Tov!